Content warning. This series will discuss topics that may bring up painful experiences for you. Please take the time to surround yourself with good medicines. If need be, pause the playback and go for a walk, stretch, have a glass of water, and come back to the show when you feel comfortable. Welcome to the Métis Speaker Series. I'm your host, Darian Kovacs. On this podcast series, we will be exploring learning, healing, and rebuilding within the Métis community. Our goal is to create awareness of and generate discussion about Métis issues, as well as how to heal from and move forward in a healthy way. We hope to reduce Métis invisibility in BC through the personal stories from our Métis community members. The show is brought to you by the Métis Nation of British Columbia and Jelly Marketing.
I couldn't help myself. You gave me everything.
Welcome to another episode of the Métis Speaker Series. This is a very special episode as we don't often have guests coming back for a second time. And Julie and I were talking just before kind of off line, and she was saying, well, this isn't the season you want to actually, you don't try to come back for a season like this. But Julie, You were a wonderful guest the first time. We're going to put a link to that if you want to hear Julie in a previous episode about her work and her career. But Julie, we're so grateful that you are coming back for this season.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah. And so Julie, for those that maybe haven't listened to that first episode, maybe tell us a bit about your career and who you are, and then let's get into what you are dealing with today.
Well, I, first of all, am a very proud Métis woman. I come from Alberta. My grandfather, very, very Nolin, very well-known Métis name. But we also had a strong Cree influence in our family. So I do say that I'm Métis Cree because that was the language that he spoke, was Cree. But obviously, huge pride in who I am, being Métis. My career has been an interesting one. I've been in the media now, oh my goodness, 35 years. I've been doing this journalism thing. Started off in print. That was my training. And then transitioned into television in around 95, doing small things to build on the career that I have. I've worked all over the prairie, so people might recognize me for my time in, say, Calgary or Saskatoon, Edmonton. Certainly paid my dues along the way. Also working at Czech on the island. And I had made a stop in Vancouver before that as the 6 o'clock anchor at City TV. And I then came back over, had finished my master's degree in intercultural and international communication. A lot of my studies focused on the Indigenous peoples of North America, and worked for several years on the Sharing Circle on APTN as a documentary director-writer. Oh my goodness. That was 7-8 years that I did that. So lots of time telling important stories about our people. And most recently was at CTV in Vancouver for 10 years for local and national reporting. And then about 2.5 years ago, I was able to join Global BC, and very proud to say that I came on there as part of their diversity and inclusion practices and bringing more, more diversity, obviously, to Global. And I was working on a Indigenous reporting guide, trying to educate other journalists about how we cover First Nations and Indigenous, Métis, cultures in Canada, really wanting to correct some of the language, the misunderstandings that we often experience, kind of being that person in the room that could answer questions like, how do you pronounce this? A lot of the times I didn't know, had to make inquiries or look it up, at least have the um, ability to ask questions along the way, and knowing enough to say, hang on, let's just double check this, as good journalists do. And then, yeah, unfortunately, almost 2 years ago, so July 2023, things took a very, very different turn in my career. So back over to you.
Yeah, and tell me about maybe if you're comfortable with going into the details of like discovery and um, maybe taking the time. What does that look like? What was that occurrence look like for you? Was it a doctor? Was it a doctor's appointment? Was it?
Whew. Actually, it started in December 2022, and I had a periductal mastitis. For anybody who has had mastitis, especially nursing moms, know what that is. It's a breast infection. No, my children are quite old, so it doesn't make sense. Like doctors would say, I'm not sure why you're still going through this. But just the type of breast tissue that I have, was always on top of getting exams. And so I'd had mastitis many, many, many times over the years. My children are older, they're adults. So again, doesn't make sense. Why am I going through this? But I discovered two lumps, two infections sort of back to back in December. I've been pretty critical of the healthcare system in British Columbia because even though I presented with something that was suspicious, it took, more than 5 months to get into the system, to get properly diagnosed. And then, again, it was July actually of 2023, like I say, that finally I found out through a biopsy that indeed I have been battling breast cancer since then. So it was, quite a surprising bit of news, only because I have been always on top of my health, especially my breast health. So it's a really solid reminder, I think, with the type of tissue that I have, which is dense breasts. Um, so that can hide, just for anybody who needs to know this, men as well, because as we know, breast cancer can affect both men and women. But my tissue very dense, so things can hide. But in this case, for me, I had two very, prominent lumps. So right away, I just had to switch it into high gear to get treatment, figure out what we were going to do. So I decided that I wanted to, go forward with chemotherapy, aggressive chemotherapy, uh, because of what we thought was going on at the time, which was HER2 positive. If anybody knows what that is all about, I hope I'm not speaking over anybody's heads, but it's the type of uh, tumors that you see. The characteristics in my tumors were thought to be HER2 positive and hormone positive. So lots fueling this cancer. So very aggressive, but typically the thinking is that it responds well to treatment. So um, within a few weeks of that diagnosis, I'd been engaged for several years. We whoa, let's get married. I That very first week of the diagnosis, I sat down next to my fiance, and we'd been engaged for like more than 4 years. It's like, okay, let's stop waiting. Like, life is too short. Let's get married. So, we slammed together a beautiful wedding in our
Oh wow,
backyard,
that's
and
amazing.
yeah, and a reception. Uh, just it seriously was just a couple of weeks that we spent being able to get something going, and then it was the very next day from the wedding, I cut all my long, beautiful hair off. 2 days after that, started chemotherapy, Red Devil, if anybody understands what that is too. Very, 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 very strong chemotherapy drug. So I did 4 rounds of that and then switched
And how
to,
did you choose that route? Like, what was that decision making process like?
well, that was a conversation with the oncologist at BC Cancer. And, it was like, we gotta throw everything at it. I think it was like there really was no choice. We had to go to battle and had to essentially just throw everything at it. And so it was a pretty aggressive type of chemotherapy. And people, for those who don't understand, chemotherapy is usually administered intravenously, although it can be taken by pills, etc. But you're sitting there in a chair at BC Cancer, being pumped full of chemicals that essentially kill all of the healthy cells as well as the cancerous ones, right? So, I was 4 rounds of that and then switched to a taxane for 4 more and go into surgery to get a lumpectomy. So partial mastectomy. I didn't want to opt, and I don't mind talking about this quite openly because the thinking is we don't take entire breast tissue out as much. Research shows that the outcomes for women or men with just getting a lumpectomy. So let's get rid of what's left after we've shrunk it with the chemotherapy. Let's do what you can to battle that before surgery, um, and then remove them. So you are hoping that you're choosing the right thing. And so in my case, we had also found out that I had a mutation. So we needed, after, like, that was right before surgery. But it's not like BRCA. It's not. It is affecting my ability. It was affecting my ability to, I think, fight this or at least acquire the disease, if that makes any sense. Um, so we knew that I was at that point that I was much higher risk of getting cancer, which I didn't know. So I'm going to be a big proponent of genetic testing down the line because, let's work smarter, not harder, right? So that knowledge would have been nice to know at the beginning. Uh, anyway, so we find out that the chemotherapy wasn't in fact as effective as it could have been. So there was about 20% cancer left in one of the tumors. So then you're like, okay, what do we do? Should I do what's called adjuvant chemotherapy? So I'd done neoadjuvant, which is the before surgery. So now we're having to switch into, okay, now we got to do more chemotherapy, right? And that's another long road. And do you want to choose radiation? And in my case, yes, I wanted to do radiation. And so I ended up actually having to go to Washington State for the month of May, which a lot of people don't understand is really the reality here, in British Columbia, that you are in fact, so we are so short staffed, don't have the equipment, and I was told, look, you can wait 3-4 months for radiation in Canada, or you can go to the US and you can get it almost immediately, like within a few weeks. Well, I don't know about you, that didn't seem like um, a good idea to stay in Canada. Let's battle this quickly and aggressively. And luckily, we have an RV, so we were able to basically make lemonade of lemons for the month of May and went to stay in Bellingham for May. And That
Right near,
was,
were you near Whatcom, like Whatcom County? Was it Lake Whatcom? The
yeah,
lake there?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
They have the waterfalls. Did you get to there's
No, we
waterfalls?
didn't.
Okay.
Because that's the thing. You want to do more, but you're also dealing with a lot health wise, the
Yeah.
fatigue and everything like that.
Yeah.
And certainly we tried to get out and about, but yeah, it was yeah, May 27th came back to
Mm.
Canada to start more chemo. So I just finished the drug called Kadcyla, which is a Herceptin, the miracle drug, with some other hardcore taxanes. So back into that, I just 2 weeks ago finished a total of 27 rounds of chemo. Yeah,
That
27.
is,
So I thought it was going to be
and
8 next week.
context is that what's the is there an average or what is it when you hear these stories and when you talk to people? What are you usually hearing?
Usually it's, yeah, I did 6 rounds. I did 8 rounds.
Hmm.
You know, um, it is hopefully effective, but
Mhm.
you know, who knows? Who
Hmm.
knows? I like I say, I just felt like we had to do everything that we could in our power
Yeah.
to fight
Yeah.
this.
Give me maybe catch me up to date, working back as of today. Where are things at?
Right now, I've still got some more tests to go
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, uh, cancer treatment, as I have found out, and not for lack of asking questions along the way or doing news stories myself on cancer, I had no idea that
Hmm.
um, cancer is one thing, but then you develop all these secondary issues as a result of your treatment. So, things like neuropathy. When I would go in for chemo, my I couldn't feel
Hmm.
my fingertips.
Hmm.
Uh, my feet would be affected. So I would lose feeling in my feet. It's almost like severe frostbite. It reminded me of being a reporter in Edmonton, where you're
Wow.
just like,
Yeah.
ow. Um, and your joint pain, and oh my goodness, it's like one thing after another
Hmm.
with it. So that's been the hardest thing. And right now, just again, sort of accepting the fact that not the same. I sadly broke my ribs, and
Oh.
I have two broken ribs as I'm sitting here
Oh.
talking to you,
Oh.
and they're on the radiation side, so where the
Oh.
cancer was. So the chemotherapy slash radiation probably weakened
Yeah.
my bones. And so I don't know what I did. Like, people have asked me, oh, did you fall? Did you sneeze really loud? Like, what happened? And I don't know
Wow.
exactly what happened. I'd had a tiny fracture. So the year previous. So I'm not. We're not totally sure what had happened.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I've got two broken ribs as I sit here talking to you, um, and have, yeah, just ongoing circulatory issues. Trying to keep on top of my ticker because now the drugs, the taxanes, affect your heart, affect your liver function. So, people say to me constantly, you don't look like you have cancer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, makeup is a great thing. Um, it really is. Um, but I'm still swollen, in my
Yeah.
face from the drugs, and it's been a real long road for
Hmm.
sure.
If you were to, see yourself a year ago, and you touched briefly on this, but what advice would you give yourself, let alone everyone who's listening and watching the show right now? What advice would you wish you were given a year ago?
It's really about expecting the unexpected,
Hmm.
and continuing to find silver linings.
Hmm.
Um, because I think I was doing pretty well. Um, I've kept a fairly positive attitude through this all. Um, and I attribute that obviously to my amazing husband and family, first and foremost, and their incredible support. My friends, oh my goodness, my colleagues, friends, people just, were there. I've had a great army through this all. Um, and I did start gratitude journaling well before this health issue. So that all helped me to stay positive for the better part of this. But when my ribs broke, um, and I was bedridden, I couldn't even sit up. Uh, would have trouble, putting my own pants on. Like it was so bad right before Christmas. I really hit rock bottom, and I think it's given me more perspective on how that, those health struggles can build, on top of each other. And even though you're, I think mentally I was prepared for all of the stuff that would come from chemotherapy and radiation, because the fatigue too after radiation is significant. So I was doing radiation and chemotherapy at the same time, feeling pretty tired along the way. But I think when I broke the ribs, it was just, like, oh my goodness, seriously? So my ribs have not been able to completely heal. Um, on Christmas Day, can't get up. Um, and my amazing husband said, like, I'm bringing Christmas to you, in bed. Um, that was hard because I wanted to be, I wanted to bake cookies. Like the previous Christmas had been so, hard. Um, with chemotherapy, but I think it was, a shock to me
Yeah.
that I felt that sort of spiral, starting. Um, Unfortunately, I think uh, now that I'm done, hopefully I'm done chemotherapy,
Hmm.
um, that I can be more positive. I
Yeah.
can look forward to the future now, and properly heal these ribs,
Yeah.
like two broken ribs. And we thought, before we got diagnosed, before I always talk about, like, my husband and I are both going through this, but we're both going
Yeah.
through this.
Yeah.
Ended up in ER in December because I was like, this isn't normal. Like something's very wrong. And,
Hmm.
of course we have to investigate if it's bone cancer. So,
Yeah.
that's where it just spirals. Cancer
Mm.
isn't just one thing. It's okay. Now we have to rule this out. Now we worry about it, spreading. And so the ER doctor, she said, so I'm the bearer of some good news. And we were
Oh.
like, okay. And she says, so you don't have bone cancer, uh,
Oh.
because we were able to work the system and get in for a CT scan right away. So they were able to rule out cancer. But she said, you've got two broken ribs. we, were, we
Wow.
were sitting there stunned, like, oh my goodness, where did this come from?
Yeah.
And, so it's just, yeah, I'm still struggling with the ribs. And there's not much, I don't know. Have you ever broken your ribs? There's not a whole lot that can be done.
No. No. And there's all sorts of like breathing and movement, all the stuff that goes along with
Don't
that.
make me laugh. Don't,
Yeah. I'm sorry.
don't
This is
make me
very
so
serious. We keep this very
serious.
serious today. Very serious.
So yeah, like when I have a really, good laugh, like oh,
Yeah.
that hurts. So,
Oh.
I'm hoping that, we've hit rock bottom, and now
Yeah.
we're on that upward swing.
Wow. You're in the thick of it. We've had a lot of interviews where people are able to look back and process. But as someone who's in the middle of it all And let's hope close to near the end. That's what we're all hoping and praying for. But how is the best way for people to talk to you, react to you? Because I think there's the concern of there's like paralysis by analysis and people do nothing. But and then there's the
Yeah.
fear they're going to say something wrong. So
Yes.
advice to friends and family who discover their
Oh,
friend got cancer. How should they talk? Like, what's your advice to them?
I'm going to use some academic knowledge here.
Yeah.
When I did my master's at Royal Roads and finished in 2010, um, and I had embarked on a study about coping with job loss.
Hmm.
And it was because I had gone through it and had watched at City TV 50 other people also laid off at the same time,
Hmm.
dealing it dealing with it in different ways. And I wanted to understand why that was. And so when you embark on something like a thesis, you have to find other research, right? That's been done previously by other scientists, researchers, etc., that basically guide your direction. And I couldn't at the time. This was 2008, 2009. There wasn't a whole lot of even though we'd just come out of a recession, there wasn't a whole lot of literature on how is it that we can cope with uh, job loss. And so instead, I had to use a lot of cancer research, coping with cancer, and that ended up being very important for me in this fight. And I think I knew even the day that I was diagnosed, first and foremost, that I had to accept the reality right away. Because if you don't accept bad news right away, you don't move into this place of what's called planful problem solving. So that afternoon, I'm like, okay, I can't be in denial here. This, if I don't accept this very bad news right now and start thinking of solutions, I'm going to hurt myself in the long
Mhm.
run. So to answer your question, part of what research I did around job loss has applied. And what my focus of that research was about how do people positively deal with bad news through the support of others. So, what do you need to hear as a person in this from family? And it's completely the same, right? Um, Not surprisingly, it's about offering solutions. Like, I appreciate when someone would say, I'm very sorry to hear you're going through this. And I appreciate the compassion I do because actually there's a lot of people who don't want to face it because, same with me accepting it, sometimes other people don't want to accept that diagnosis that you are dealing with, right? I've learned that everybody has their own relationship with cancer, has a complicated relationship with cancer. Everyone has had a friend, family member, um, someone in their lives, even a pet, that has had cancer. And everybody's relationship with cancer is so different. And that's hard to navigate sometimes as the person that's, in the fight because like I just want you to be there. I want you to show up in my army. Are you in my army? Some people just they did their, I don't want to say their duty right out of the gate. Hello, I heard you have cancer. I'm very sorry. Being a public figure, as I am, I also had a lot of strangers and viewers coming out saying, "I'm so sorry for what you have to deal with." Um, but I think sometimes the most powerful um, ways to support have been like my neighbor, um, was showing up with soup all the time, you know, through chemo. Here, like I made you this squash soup. Here's some roasted nuts for the top. Here's a little thing of sour cream. Like, just this is my love. Like, I'm giving that to you. Another friend, even now, still writes me cards. Like, almost every other week, I get a card in the mail. Even if she just said, this is what I'm dealing with. Her mom's been sick. So she's, sorry I'm not writing as much, but, I just want you to know we're here. We love you. And that has been amazing. The regular check-ins have been good. Even, folks who've said, like, what, how are you really? Like, really want to know. So to focus on the positives, yeah, like just showing up. And usually the best has been the actual, like, how can I help you? How can I be of service? And I think that's who we are too as Métis people, that we want to serve each other. Um, so I've
And
really
we can make good
appreciated that.
soup. And we
That's
can
right.
make it. So that's a good combo.
And I have done this for other people where I've made soup, or I've like this is my way of showing love. That has been the most powerful.
So
It's been,
Julie, do you
yes.
want their name on the Tupperware, or do you want like like are you? Here's the stressful part. Okay, having been in a situation, you get all this Tupperware and containers. What do you do with it? Have
Well,
you
I
figured out that solution as a
you know
recipient of such
I don't
casserole bowls?
you can buy those really cheap uh Tupperware, like
Yes.
if you're doing this for somebody, you could just buy the
Yes.
cheap Tupperware at the dollar store and expect that it doesn't come back home, right? It's just,
Yes.
putting it out there. Most of the time I returned all the Tupperware. I don't think we acquired Tupperware. I think we, I'm going to credit my husband for having a memory going, I'm pretty sure this belongs to so and so, so we would
He figured
return
out a
it.
system. He
Yeah,
had a system here.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Good for
He
him.
was on top of it more than me, for sure. Because yeah, chemo brain's a real thing too. So losing memory, even though I sound like I'm making sense, like I can fool people pretty well.
Yeah.
Um, but and now I'm not feeling that way. Like my memory's back, and yet, especially during the worst times of chemotherapy, you go through spats where you don't remember things, but I do remember who showed up. I do remember who didn't. And cancer creates also really, I don't want to be negative, but you realize who's there and who's not.
Hmm.
It's not necessarily a positive thing, but I do think my relationships will change forever because of who came out, for the fight with me, and who just didn't decide for whatever reason, because of their relationship with cancer. It's also about mortality, right? Like, you know, I have had people say, well, you're not dying, right? I hope not, but I don't know how to answer that,
Wow.
you know?
Yeah. So, Métis community, being Métis, any elements like culturally connection, you mentioned a few connections to community. What are elements that have kind of helped you, supported you, given you hope along the way?
Um, I honestly do wish I'd had more support.
Mm.
Um, I'd wanted an elder to help. I still don't have someone that's. I've asked. I'm smart enough now to advocate for myself.
Yeah.
That's another thing cancer taught me
Yeah.
is I don't put up with a whole lot anymore.
Right.
Um, and if I don't feel like something's working,
Hmm.
I speak up. What has helped I've done a lot of smudging,
Yeah.
um, a lot of, again, the gratitude journaling, just being with spirit as much as I can. And creating that for myself has been
Mm,
important.
mm,
But, I did connect with the Indigenous support worker at
okay.
BC Cancer right away and identified, and I said, would love more help. And, you know, uh, it was unfortunate because there were just a series of things that happened in the beginning that we kept trying to connect, go for walks, um, but it just didn't work out.
Mm,
Partly because you're just so sick, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Um, so there was just a lot that I feel like I missed out on, but I was just at the Métis health um, cancer uh, the what are we calling it, the
Symposium.
workshops
Yeah. Workshops. Yeah.
symposium
Yeah.
just here, what was it, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So unfortunately I missed out talking to you because of the broken
Yeah.
ribs, right?
Yeah.
um, so that, I even there I said I just wish that I had had more uh, more connection to an elder, like through this, um, and just it unfortunately just I know I have to keep saying it out loud, but unfortunately our elders are oversubscribed. Like,
Yeah.
like how do you fight for uh more more help when there's only a small number of
Yeah.
elders who can help us with this? I think that this answers two questions. I wish I had spoken up more about this, you
Mm,
know, um, needing that support early on. That's the
yeah.
advice I probably would go back to say to myself a year ago, to make sure you're getting an elder. But I'm not giving up. I'm still asking for that help. You
Okay.
know, I don't know.
Looking
Am I
forward. Yeah.
answering
No,
your
that's
question?
very helpful. Very helpful. Just very realistic and very honest. It's been so refreshing, Julie. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing. Um, any kind of other resources or places that you found hope or kind of peace in this time?
Just really trying to connect more with nature, uh, animals. I've done more art,
Mm,
in this journey. Um, I actually wanted to go back to violin, fiddling. Unfortunately, my ribs are in the way of doing that. Um, but I had made inquiries, I think, back in October, November. But just, yeah, getting more in tune with the things that honor my talent. Writing, I'm slowly getting back into more writing. I want to write a book on gratitude. I'm working on it. Um, and then, yeah, with regard to painting, my family's just been uh, so enthusiastic. I question whether I'm actually making good art because they're all so sweet. Oh, what a beautiful painting! No, that's not
yeah.
one that I did. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, are
Yeah.
you just saying nice things? But I've leaned into that more, and I used to be quite a little artist when I was
Mm,
a kid and into my teens, and so rediscovering that, I think sometimes that's what cancer does too, is like dial you back to where you're honoring your true self.
mm,
And the nice thing is I can stay doing art, painting again now that I'm back in it.
yeah.
I bought paints. I'm going to plug an Indigenous company called Beam Paints, and you're familiar with them.
Yeah. I'm a
Yeah.
watercolorist as well.
Are
And
you?
beautiful,
Oh,
beautiful.
awesome.
Yeah, just what they come in, the container, everything. It's
I
just gorgeous.
know.
Yeah.
And so watercolor is one of those things that, really you could have like 1% artistic talent and you can still do amazing things, you know? So just, yeah, just losing myself in
Mm.
painting has been therapeutic. And yeah, I don't want to ramble on. It's just, it's cancer can be also so like liberating and
Mm.
going like, I'm not wearing these shackles anymore. I'm not going
Yeah,
to do this anymore. Um, but yeah, it shows you what's important, and yeah, art is very important. I'm so impressed that you're a watercolorist as well.
I love it. I do a lot of pen and ink and then I watercolor on top. It's just
Nice.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe you can teach me.
Oh, I am a student myself. You know what it is? It's my doodle, my go-to doodle, and I've got a little Moleskine, and you know what I
Oh,
found actually? I
nice.
found I found these it's like the flip books, and so found a
Oh,
sketchbook that was like
yes.
1.5 inches by 1.5, and it's
Yes.
so nice to travel with. And then watercolors,
Oh,
they have
yes.
these koi pens, so it's like water.
Yes.
It's a very good travel thing and can fit in your pocket
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
on the
So
fly.
anyway, that's the kind of stuff
That's
that
awesome.
has helped me get through.
Julie, I need to ask, and this came up during the conference day, was do you think, would you wear a pink breast cancer awareness sash, Métis sash, if they came out with one?
Oh, that's is this a thing? Is this going to be a
I
thing?
just came up with it. I thought of it and thought it hasn't been done yet. Should we do it? Should this happen,
Oh
Julie?
my
Are
goodness.
we doing this?
Oh, you just gave me goosebumps.
Is
I
there,
love it. I
there's a
love
wonderful
it.
man in Winnipeg who is the predominant sash maker. It's called Itchy Boy, and I think we need to connect him with uh, the breast cancer awareness organization and say
Oh
we need
my
a pink
goodness.
sash. Yeah,
Oh my goodness. That is amazing.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and especially when you look at the data and where
yeah,
we're headed
yeah,
and what, you know, our people need to know
yeah,
what's coming. And there are
yeah,
going to be higher cancer rates, much higher,
yeah,
uh, you know, as we look into the future. And sadly, you know, yeah, what is it? Like the numbers are going to increase by, I don't want to throw out a wrong stat, but it was quite high over the next 10 years, wasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. So this is yeah, it's. I'm glad people are being aware of to check, keep checking, keep checking, which is good proactively.
I mean, I'm all for early detection,
Yeah.
right? And I was always on it. But
Mm,
if you're diagnosed and then you still or you're waiting to be diagnosed like I was, I had a
mm,
you know a blazing case of mastitis and something that was very wrong, and
mm,
for it to take so long. I mean, early detection is great, but if if it still meant that the cancer grew within me
mm.
and we didn't get to it, like you know, there's something systemically that needs to change
Yeah,
there. I mean, we need to keep building early detection up.
yeah,
So I don't want to detract from what you're saying because I absolutely think that early detection can be good for you know every cancer, really. Um, but what do we need to do moving forward is yeah raise way more awareness about this
mm,
and have a lot more compassion for the people who don't ever have to go through this. Man, are you lucky?
yeah,
Man, are you lucky that you don't have to go through it?
mm,
Um, and you know, I hope for me that this is never
mm,
ever going to be my fight again.
mm,
Um, but unfortunately, I don't know that, and that's the
mm,
case for a lot of people who go through cancer. You know, just without genetic stuff going on.
yeah,
Um, So yeah, it's to have a Métis sash that honored people in this fight would be amazing. But I also want to know, maybe I throw this back at you. How do you create a Métis sash too that is just about supporting men who go through this
mm.
or, you know, just other cancers because breast isn't the only one, right?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
I mean that's a great start. That would be an amazing start.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, no wonder you're in marketing.
Well, and just a pink sash would be beautiful. It'd be so cool.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Julie, is there anything else you want to leave with listeners and viewers? Anything else you wish you would? You're leaving today. You leave. We wrap up the podcast, and you wish, oh, I wish I'd said that.
I wish there were more resources. I wish our healthcare system could really be addressed properly.
Hmm.
I was at uh, just recently, just a couple weeks ago, I was at a breast cancer retreat in Utah with 7 other amazing women. And, they were asking all about like, what's BT? They were 7 Americans and this one Canadian. And this retreat was by the uh, the most amazing foundation, Imagery Born, and they hold these retreats all over, and it's about the support, and I think women in particular need support in a different way. I'm not saying that we're needier, but we're all about community. Like when we think of our elders and our aunties and how, you know, the women that we have in our community can, create that hug of support. I wish I'd had that. I didn't have it. And I don't know if it's because of, like I say, me being a public figure, people thought, oh, she's fine. No, no, I needed it. And I'm glad that I went to this retreat, even though I had 2 broken ribs, but I needed to travel there to connect with these women, to be around this sisterhood of support. And um, boy, did it wake me up to how much more we need to support people who are going through this. And yeah, even my story was, I think, extreme compared to what these other women were going through. And when I told them that I had to go to the US for treatment, they were like, sorry, what? How broken is the system up there? Like because Canada has done this great job of saying, we're great at healthcare. And I would say to you, we are nowhere near the top with cancer. Treatment, research, support, it's not there like it was. And we really need to overall look at what can be done to fix the system in Canada. But we're not supporting Indigenous people, Métis people, First Nations. Like, we're not doing enough for our people. And to me, this is a wake up call for me that I'm going to be doing as much as I can for our community and the greater community, um, involving Canadians, because it is a sacred cow. Healthcare has been a sacred cow. We can't criticize it. Politicians don't want to hear. Um, and, I even, when I sat down and told the then health minister in British Columbia, Adrian Dix, I said, after I was diagnosed, I actually grilled him. Um, and he apologized for the delay in my diagnosis. And, out of this, he was like, yeah, we need to change things. It's too bad that now there's a new minister in British Columbia. But, and that's always hard. You get a new person in, that's the way politics goes. But look, we have so much work to do, and especially support, just what we can do best, I think, in the Métis community is we can support. We can be better at, and I could be better. And I mean this. I could have been more involved. I could have been trying to do more before my diagnosis. But it's been a wake up call. Like, wow, we've got so much more that we can do. There's so much room for improvement, and it's an opportunity to make it what we want it to be. That puts our Métis touch on it. And I when I went to this retreat in Utah, I'm like, we need this. We need this in Canada. This thing doesn't exist. I mean, they get these, like basically a mansion, donated, and fly these people there. I mean, we did yoga. We did. They had like a spa day for us. They treated us like gold. Had a private chef come in and cook for us. Like, so much of what we do for each other as women is we don't, we just battle it. We don't look for support. We don't allow as much love and just nurturing as much as we need it into our lives. That's what I discovered, as I think I've been feeling guilty leaning on people, and I can't. That's not going to serve me. Doesn't serve anybody, right? And I think I came home with my eyes so wide open of what more we can do to be a positive force and help people, whether they're going through cancer or other, diseases, etc. Right? Like, probably in even the work that you're doing, you're hearing from people who are dealing with health issues that need more support.
It's amazing. Those are some inspiring words, Julie. Honestly, thank you. Wow. This was an episode. Part 2, Julie. Part 2. You're fiercer. You're more fiery. Me too. Warrior. Yeah, you're in warrior mode, Julie.
I am spunkier than ever, and I was spunky before this, and
exactly.
we can't keep waiting for the right time. It's here. This is the time. So yeah, thank you so much, Darian, for having me on. You are so easy to talk to, and I'm glad you're doing your thing, because I wouldn't want you to take my job at Global. Because you're so good. I'm hoping to go back to work, by the way,
Okay, good.
May. This
May.
is,
Okay,
again,
lovely.
here we are in mid-March. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm actually, dare I say, I'm actually celebrating in Hawaii the end of chemo right now. I'm in Hawaii right now,
Amazing.
celebrating. My husband's birthday is tomorrow. So happy birthday, Pete. My soulmate's here. So yeah, I'm gonna stop getting burned by the sun and just enjoy, this beautiful place, and come back home and just, yeah, really, really, really do good work, around
Amazing.
this. So let's keep talking. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. And listeners, viewers, look for Julie on Global, coming to a TV screen near you, internet screen near you, and
And
Julie,
hopefully
it's
my
been
hair grows back.
yeah, but it looks great now, so it's like a different style. It's lovely. It's perfect. Um,
Yeah.
this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Julie, for coming on the show.
Aw, thank you so much again for having me. Please take good care.
Yeah,
Please
you
take good
too.
care.
This has been another episode of the Métis Speaker Series. Be sure to check out the show notes with Julie Part 1 and other resources that Julie mentioned as well. We'll see you next time on the show. This has been the Métis Speaker Series podcast. I'm Darian Kovacs. Thanks to Métis Nation BC for making this possible. You can listen to all of our episodes, learn more about the podcast, and sign up to the Métis Nation of BC newsletter to stay up to date on Métis news at métispodcastseries.ca. You can find out more about the music we're playing by Love Life by visiting SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/lovelifeofficial, LUVLYF official, and link in the show notes for your convenience. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast listening device. See you again soon. Mina Kawapa Mitten. Thank you, Marcy, for listening.